This is a very patriotic event. Republican women are so happy to sponsor it for your benefit. So we're going to start right off this evening because we want to give the candidates 3 minutes to talk and then give you a couple of minutes to ask questions. I know it moves along fast. We wish we had more time, but we want to give every candidate an opportunity to speak before the meeting ends at 7 o'clock. So we're going to start with our 4th Congressional District candidates. And Art, you're down there on the end. Would you like to come up and be our first speaker this evening? Art will have 3 minutes. The timer's back here in the back. And Lois will signal you when you have 30 seconds left. And then when time is up. Thank you, Art.
Thank you. And thank you for giving me the privilege. Is this on?
Yes.
It's on?
Yes.
Okay. I was speaking with you. Most of you have seen me before because I'm continuing a relationship with Mr. DeFazio, trying to replace him. This time, we've actually been gaining a lot on him. In the last election, we got 17,000 votes more than ever before, and we got 5 counties instead of 4. Haven't got your county yet, or the element next door. In Coos County was a real victory because in his entire term of office, no Republican has ever beaten him in Coos County, but we got it. The indications are that we gained a lot on it, and a thing worth doing is worth keeping until you complete it. And my colleagues and family and I are kind of known for that. We worked in the Cold War for President Reagan for 6 years and built a fine, expedient nuclear defense system for the country. We worked in sound science on climate for several years and wound up with 31,000 scientific scientists, colleagues signing up against that thing. We've done a lot in education, and in our field of science, we are the leading lab in the world in 2 things. One, somebody may be helping us with because we do diagnostic medicine, and 5,000 volunteers from Oregon have been participating. And this year, we were able to say that by measuring 4,000 things in 2 minutes in a urine sample, we could tell in advance whether someone would experience symptoms of breast cancer or heart attacks. So that's the kind of thing. Usually these things take a while. You don't do them overnight, you don't do them in 1 year, and as we are gaining and getting closer and closer to Mr. DeFazio, we're continuing to do it. The main problem, we've had many fine candidates against DeFazio. Through the years, a lot of them. And the most any one other candidate ever got was 1 county, and most got 0. And this is not because they weren't great candidates. It was a question of resources. Peter will come in with the resources of an incumbent, tremendous amounts of money, maybe about $1 million in his campaign, but that's only the start. You're up against a problem. You have to communicate your message that you would be a better representative than him to 350,000 households. He will have sent about 8 flyers to them at taxpayer expense, and will send them 4 more explaining his side. And every flyer you send him costs $100,000. That's the sort of thing you're up against. The only reason, not because we are somehow superior, the only reason that we're still in this fight and close to beating him is because we've been in these other fights and people have seen us succeed. So when we said we were running for office, they sent us the resources to help. So I hope we can be nominated this time. If we can, I think we can finish the job. I can't be sure, but I hope so. And I think we have an excellent chance. Thank you for listening.
Anyone who might have a question.
Okay. She says you can ask questions. And I pretend that I know the answer to everything.
I don't have a question, but I just want to thank you for continuing this race.
Well, thanks for the opportunity. You're afraid. I'm known for being very loquacious. I talk forever. So. Yeah.
Are you doing anything on the internet, websites, the social media?
Yeah, we have 120,000 Facebook friends, and we have a very good presence there. Usually that helps us the most later in the election. We raise our money by mail. We raise about $1 million in a campaign, about 2/3 by mail. But in the latter parts of the campaign, the internet is tremendously helpful, and of course it's helpful for campaign So those 120,000 people will be very useful to us. I'm not very good at it, but other people handle it for us. You know, I come from an age when we didn't have the internet.
There's a Facebook page.
Oh boy. This man, I've been on podiums with him and Peter DeFazio for at least a dozen times. He's the Green candidate, he's fantastic.
Well, I might be the Green candidate running against you, but I have a question.
Yeah.
The recent air raids on Syria, do you believe they are legal under U.S. law and international law?
No, they're not. The Constitution of the United States requires that Congress declare war. And they haven't been doing this since the Second World War. It's not a good thing. I am a strong supporter of the President. The President is in an extraordinary situation. No man elected to the presidency has ever had this much hate directed at him every day. I don't believe we can judge his specific decisions. We have to look at the whole, because so many compromises have to be made in the position he's in. He's done many things for us so far. He's been a very good thing, I think, for the nation, but that was not authorized under international law. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Art. I'd like to ask Court Boyce if he'll be next on our list this evening, please, next to present. Court is from Gold Beach, Oregon, came all the way up today, and we thank you, Court, for being here. He's running for U.S. Congressional District 4.
Thank you very much. So the first time Art ran, my dad, the famous sheriff of Curry County, he had signs all over his four-wheel drive pickup. My mom had signs, Art Robinson signs, all over her car. Actually, she had two cars, so it was neat to see how close Art got in those days. And so yes, my family is certainly fans of the whole Robinson family and some of the things that he was subjected to and his children were subjected to. The truth's going to come out, and it is coming out, and it's wrong. And yet they've weathered it well, and I'm just inspired by that. I have 3 minutes, did you say? Okay. When the Founding Fathers set up the system of government where you could be a Democrat or Republican, what do the Republicans stand for? Representative government. You hire me to work my tail off and represent you to the absolute very best of my ability, not to go there and get rich, join the millionaire club. That's quite an honor. It's quite a responsibility. If you'd asked me this 2 years ago, I'd have said, you're crazy. The more I'm involved, the more people I talk to, the more I'm realizing this is something I absolutely have to do. This is the second most important race in Oregon right now. It's the most winnable for us in many, many years. I spent a week with Congressman John Dellenbach as a junior in high school in 1971, May. It was a tremendous experience for me. I got to know him well. I got to know Vic Attia well. Got to know Mark Hatfield pretty well. I used to take them all upriver. I didn't know Dave Frohnmeyer well, but those were leaders. Those were committed people to Oregon, and they'd have done anything to make Oregon better, and they did. So that mentorship, that style of legislation and relating to people, they all love people. And if you learn anything about me, that's the first thing you'll find out, is I love people. My parents were that way, their parents were that way, and it's something that I offer, and I will work every single day to get your trust. And once I get it, and I think I will, I'll fight like heck to keep it. I'm a term limit guy. Peter DeFazio's been in there, well into his 32nd year. He's now down there suddenly, 8 months later after a fire is done, Technical Bar fire. He's helping us out. Well, he's not helping us. He should have been there 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. They're burning up our forest. If I'm overstating it, forgive me. It's got to be said. Sam Carpenter said the other night at a big gathering in Medford, this is a street fight. And boy, that resonated with me. If you think that's overstating it, and our country's okay, and we just have to push back a little bit, it's not the way I see it, and that's not why I'm trying to do this, okay? So it's wonderful to be here in Corvallis. My son was a linebacker here for Oregon State in 95 through 99, had a great career. He was a co-captain his sophomore and senior year. Both those Civil Wars were at Autzen, and both times they lost by 30 to the Ducks. But he's an OSP now in drug enforcement. I couldn't be prouder of him. I'll conclude with this. In fact, I raised my family in the Rogue River Wilderness, one of the most sacred places you can find anywhere. If anybody ever wants to say that I don't understand wilderness and how important it is to Oregon, but when you take away the common sense aspect of a garden that grows the fastest growing, highest quality trees anywhere on the planet, that's the Oregon advantage. We got to promote that. That'll stop the smoke. We'll manage better. And I really appreciate y'all being here. I was chairman of the Curry County Republican Central Committee back in the 80s. I was just a kid. Boy, did I learn a lot, and it was a great experience. Thank you again for the invitation.
Questions? Anyone have any questions to ask?
We said Stefan Strick.
Yes. Great
Yes, sir. How
presentation.
you doing?
Pretty
Good
good.
to see you. Thank you.
Great presentation. Thank you so much. Glad to have
Do
you.
you have a question?
Yeah. What issue is Mr. Fazio most vulnerable
There you go, boy.
I only got 2 minutes, sorry. I think the Millionaire Club, I think that the vote he just discarded on, he's a crafty politician, as Art can tell you. Art knows the situation better than I. But against the veterans, to hold the people that have these high perks and retirement plans, and they're not held accountable. And you're seeing that. The fourth branch of our government is the bureaucracy. And so I think that's one. I think that he is allowed. When we talk about extreme environmentalists, we're only talking about 3% of the people. I mean, we're all environmentalists in this room, but there is a group that's had their way for so long. You've seen what it's done to our public lands. And Oregon is just powerless to push back against the federal government. I got to go to Washington. It's that simple. And there's a lot of other issues that I think he's vulnerable on. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Would you be willing to repeal the Endangered Species Act?
Boy, I'm so happy to report that Eagles have made a heck of a comeback. You know, if you are familiar with some of the Oregon counties where they're introducing grizzlies within the next 2 years to allow a county, northeastern Oregon, and what the commissioners there, what the ranchers, what the people are dealing with, we spend a fortune to promote visitors. That's what I did my whole life, was tourism on Rogue River. And then we're gonna lock them out of the forest, or you're gonna tell me I can't take my grandkids because I'm gonna be looking over my shoulder for a pack of wolves or something? I know it sounds extreme, but they're in Bedford right now. They're only 100 miles as a crow flies from where I live. And these people are getting their way. So you bet I get fired up because they are wrong, and it's gonna destroy the state of Oregon. 2 minutes.
All right, 2 minutes. Thank you very much. Let's give the candidate for 4th Congressional District from Oregon, if you come up and present.
Stefan Strick.
Thank you, everybody, for coming down here today. See a lot of familiar faces. That's excellent. Yo-yo. Righteous. Great to be back in Corvallis, visiting from Eugene, liberal wasteland, but I do what I can to make it better. As I said, my name is Stefan Strick, and I'm running for U.S. Representative in our 4th District here. I have 3 top agendas. Number 1 is guns. I love guns. I own 6 pistols, a couple rifles, gorgeous shotgun, and got another one in the mail. I'm really happy with that. But moving on, it's too awful what's going on with the dirty money out of New York and Los Angeles, San Francisco, trying to take our gun rights away. These people have no idea what common sense gun laws means. That's the 2nd Amendment. It means shall not be infringed. These people want to completely repeal the 2nd Amendment and take all our guns away. They've got IP-43 on trying to push through the Oregon legislature. This will make every single semi-automatic pistol or rifle illegal in the state of Oregon. It's got to be stopped. I'm willing to stop it at the federal level. My first agenda, if elected, is to put forth federal legislation that says anyone infringing on our 2nd Amendment rights gets hit with federal penalties. They put these gun bans, magazine bans in place, they'll be getting fitted for a custom orange jumpsuit right next to Hillary Clinton. Yeah. Second off, veterans. We've got a couple generations of my family down in Arlington National Cemetery. I care a lot about veterans. And what I've heard too much from people I've been talking to at the street level is that besides veterans needing jobs, veterans need health care. They're not getting the health care they deserve at the VA. They're being told, you're not a priority. You don't get your surgery. And they have to go somewhere else and they can't get their health care. If veterans have access to non-VA doctors, and they're guaranteed that right, they can get the surgery that they've earned and they've deserved to live better lives. And I feel we owe that to them. Third off is the foster system. There's too many children and adults in foster care that are horribly abused. You know, only 30% of child abduction cases in this country are ever solved. And a lot of those children are abducted out of the foster care system. I spoke with a woman who works in Salem. She had to personally call the feds because there was a farm in Southern Oregon marketing children out of a private airstrip. It's awful. So, those three agendas. I want to protect our Second Amendment. I want to defend veterans, and I want to defend adults and children in foster care. Every single elected representative for the 4th District has been out of either Eugene or Medford. Medford's in the 2nd District now. History repeats itself. Try and you succeed. I'm putting forth the work to do this, and I'm ready to go to Washington, D.C. and work for everybody here. Thank you very much.
We'll step at 2 minutes now for questions from the audience.
Heyo.
Hate the Ducks. I would love the Beavers.
Hey.
Second of all, well, that's first, and then second of all,
Heyo.
about the gun control,
Yes.
I think the list of those cities, they're very, I think they're sanctuary cities,
Yep.
and they're very against, they're against guns.
Definitely.
I think, do you think you can, like if you win your district, do you think we can keep our guns to protect ourselves? Because that's the way the right to bear arms.
Absolutely. I believe that. If you take out the main population centers of crime, that's Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, that removes about 90% of the gun-related violence in the entire United States of America. You know, and these are places where guns are already illegal. They don't talk about the violence going on in Chicago and Los Angeles because guns are already illegal there. That's why they talk about Florida every day, because you can still buy a gun in Florida to defend yourself. They don't care about children. They don't care about minorities. They care about dirty money from the anti-gun lobby. Yeah. And we're going to keep our guns. If I win the election, I guarantee it, I will not sleep without putting forth pro-gun agendas every single day. Thank you.
Very much.
Yeah.
Real quick one. For the veterans and the
Yep.
foster care that you mentioned,
Yeah.
how can we pay for that as we are going through with the current budget situation?
Well, the money's already there. It's just being completely misappropriated. You know, we got people in there that just don't know how to do their jobs, or they know how to do it and they just refuse to. For example, there was a young woman who was one of my roommates this last year, really hard working. She worked nights, weekends as CNA to help care for people in the hospital. She had a couple surgeries and couldn't get her rent paid on time. Her social care worker completely dropped the ball. I had to do all the work myself, filling out paperwork, getting registered with the state as a provider to get a check. You know, only $600 to help get her through the month until she could work again. If I hadn't done that work, if she'd been in a regular apartment, she would have been kicked back out onto the street and back into the foster care program. All that money is right there. We've got more than enough to do the jobs that need to be done. They're just completely incompetent in government. We need to put people who really work hard in place. Yeah. Thank you. Righteous.
All right, our last candidate for 4th Congressional District from Oregon will be Jo Ray Perkins. The lady with the flag.
Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Jo Ray Perkins. and I am running for the 4th Congressional District, and I am the candidate that will defeat and displace DeFazio. Absolutely, no doubt in my mind. I live in Albany with my husband, George. We are Main Street Americans. He's a carpet installation contractor. My background has been in financial planning. I was a financial advisor, real estate agent, banker, small business owner, and I've had years and years of experience working in the business world. I, along with a couple of the other candidates, have had the privilege of owning our own businesses and signing the front side of those checks to pay employees and to pay the bills for the office rent and all those utilities. And that's an important thing to understand. And with somebody with the financial background that I have, to go into Washington, D.C., to take care of this bloated budget, or lack thereof, I should say, we need somebody like that that's got that kind of sense. And that's one of the questions that people have is, what about the budget? What's going on with that? When I started this journey in 2009, 2010, federal budget, the short-term budget, was just under $10 trillion. It is now over $21 trillion. So how are we going to fix that problem? We're going to start cutting out the wasteful spending. That is so very, very important to do. We've got to get back to doing the job of what the Constitution says Congress is. And one of the jobs that is not for the Congress to fund is the mating habits of the tsetse fly. I'm sorry, but that is not the job, to figure that out. Or the mating habit of any other thing out there. That is not in the Constitution. There's so much waste that we can get rid of. Immigration is a huge issue for everybody I've talked to. They are not pleased at all with what has been going on with immigration. On my website, I came up with a partial solution. It's not the full solution because there's so many moving parts. But there's a way that we can fix that problem. One of the areas that we can fix it is Oregon, for example, has a great guest worker program. Instead of hiring illegals, they should be doing the guest worker program. It works. I've talked to farmers that use that program, and it works. And that puts people above board. That's just one area that we need to work on to get that fixed. And you guys know what all these problems are. But I want to go with this. Gosh, there's so many places I could go. But one of the places that I did go just a couple months ago, the end of February, I went to Washington, D.C. The only candidate that took time out of their campaign to go to Washington, D.C. to be with 1,300 other people to pray for a turnaround in our nation. 3 solid days of nothing but praying for this country. And I'll tell you, it was powerful. We went to the Supreme Court building and prayed that people either turn their lives around or retire. And we're already seeing that happen with Justice Kennedy. This country is turning around. And I look forward to being your representative in Washington, D.C. And now I would like to take a couple questions. 3 minutes flies by, I'll tell you. Must be one. Yes, sir.
What do you think the biggest issue that DeFazio has that he's...
Louder.
The biggest issue of DeFazio that makes him vulnerable?
The Achilles heel to DeFazio is veterans. DeFazio has claimed to fame that he has helped veterans, but this is the way that he's done it. Let's say that Representative Neerman, and I'm sorry, what is your name again?
Dave Stahl.
Hi, Dave Perkins. Okay, you and Representative Neerman are veterans. You have exactly the same problem. You call DeFazio's office. You get taken care of. You're fine. He doesn't call. He never gets help. And I'm sorry, Representative Neerman. You died. You lived. My question is, why did that happen? If DeFazio had the answer for you, he also had the answer for him, right? So he's been taking care of people one problem at a time. But he has a solution to fixing the problem, and he doesn't. And that is a problem, and that's his Achilles heel. He has been there. He just started his 32nd year, and over the last 30 years, look at how horrible the Veterans Administration has been. It's an absolute joke. They're losing records, they're misdiagnosing people, and on and on and on. And I contend that if he's got the solution for your problem, and you've got the same problem, then why isn't it getting fixed? Because you're going out there and telling everybody how wonderful he is. Representative Dearman didn't know that he could pick up the phone and rattle somebody's cage. And I think that that is so immoral that a representative would use people in that way. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
What's your
Ms.
point
Hubbard.
what's your point of view about managing the forests, the trees?
Managing the forest. Constitution says, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17, that these lands not specifically set aside 10 acres, 10 miles for the federal government are left to the states. And I know I just combined two different things. I understand I did that, which is also the 10th Amendment. But it says that the federal government isn't supposed to own this land. Forests, ports, and other needful buildings. That's what the land is there for. And we need to get the federal government off of our land, get it back to the states, get it back to the counties, so that it can be properly managed. And we can get those forests opened back up so that we can be productive. Thank you very much, and I look forward to talking with y'all later.
And we've just been real happy to have Joe Ray step up to the plate. I'd like to let you know that there's coffee, there's tea, there's juice back there, there's water, there's cookies, anything to keep your strength up here. So feel free to go back at any time. We're going to move now to the 5th Congressional District candidates. We'll have our first speaker, Mark Callahan, come up, please. Mark Callahan, running for 5th Congressional District from Oregon.
Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mark Callahan, and I am running for Congress in Oregon's 5th Congressional District. Ladies and gentlemen, I have some exciting news. Some exciting news. We can get this done. We can remove Kurt Schrader from office in 2018. He has been in there since the previous president prior to Trump. I won't name that previous president because I think he's an idiot myself. But we can remove Kurt Schrader from office. Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, I ran against a now 37-year career politician, New Yorker, that we know as Ron Wyden back in 2016. I won the May primary. It was a long battle over that summer. May 2016 primary I won. It was a long battle over that summer, and we came away with some excellent results. We got 651,000 votes statewide. As you know, Congressional District 5 is included in those numbers because Oregon currently includes 5 congressional districts. So my team and I, we took a look at the numbers for Congressional District 5. And we compared them with Cole Mullis's numbers from 2016. We compared them with Kurt Schrader's numbers also from 2016. And ladies and gentlemen, this is the excellent and exciting news. We can get this done. We are within a few thousand of removing Kurt Schrader from office. Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, I am a conservative. I am a Republican. And I care about this country. I run because I care. I have a couple daughters myself, Heather and Sarah. They're 14 and 15 years old. They come with me on the campaign trail sometimes. They pass out the literature and run the video camera. But I'm doing it for them. I'm doing it because I had to get off the couch, stop watching TV and complaining anymore. And obviously the TV does not yell back at me, obviously. But I had to do something because I care about this country so much. My parents were both military. They both served honorably in the U.S. Navy in the 70s. My mom went back in the 90s, served as a mess cook on board the USS Guam. We are invested in this country, all of us. Just like my parents were invested in this country in the Navy. My wife is a Coast Guard veteran herself. I want to take care of the veterans. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm running on a platform that includes 4 things. Being pro-God, pro-life, pro-gun, and pro-immigration reform. It was one of the best days of my life that I accepted the Lord Jesus Christ into my heart as my Lord and Savior. I'm not ashamed to talk about it on the campaign trail because it guides me. I'm pro-life. I've been endorsed by Oregon Right to Life both in the last election in 2016 and in this election. I'm pro-gun. I'm a strong supporter of the Second Amendment. And I've been in terms of being pro-immigration reform, I'm on the board for Oregon's immigration reform and have been for the last 4 years. My name is Mark Callahan. I'm running for Congress in Oregon's 5th Congressional District. Together, as I said, we can get this done. We can remove Kurt Schrader from office. Thank you. May God bless America. Any questions? Go ahead, Mike.
In America, we have the Equal Access to Justice Act, which means that organizations can sue the federal government on behalf of wildlife and collect and get reimbursed for their legal fees. Would you, and that ends up putting gazillions of dollars into the
I would be on board with, I need to study about it obviously a little bit more, but yeah, I'd be on board with repealing that because right now it's being corrupted. As you said, it was basically meant to make whole the people that sue the government, and right now it's being corrupted by the leftist organizations, and it's actually affecting us, and it's raising our taxes as well in terms of the national debt. So we need to do something to actually make the system more efficient in terms of like a balanced budget amendment or repealing the Equal Access to Justice Act, like you said, or at least scaling it back. I just said I gotta read the bill obviously first. But yeah, I mean, I'm for a balanced budget amendment and limited government guide myself. Go ahead.
I'm pro-life myself. But in today, we have women who are having trouble accessing prenatal care, birth, money to give birth, maternity leave, paid maternity leave, and being able to take leave if their children is sick. How can we do some of those things that will help reduce the abortion rate?
Well, I'm pro-life myself. I believe, I'm not going to sugarcoat this here, abortion is murder, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And there are pregnancy resource centers out there that people can utilize as well. I'm actually in favor of defunding Planned Parenthood because we shouldn't be using taxpayer dollars to pay for abortions per the Hyde Amendment. And so I would recommend people use pregnancy resource centers and other prenatal care. I know when my daughters were born, it was one of the best days of my life, in addition to accepting the Lord into my heart. I was in the operating room when my daughters were born, both Heather and Sarah, and I know when my oldest daughter, Heather, was born, I held her up, and it was a very emotional moment, and I realized I had to take care of the life in my hands. So to answer your question most directly, though, as I said, there are pregnancy resource centers out there, and there are other prenatal care options that are available to people. Any other questions? Go ahead.
Mark, James Rainey.
Oh, thank you, James.
When I hear immigration reform, depending upon who's saying it, can mean exactly wildly different things. It can mean everything from all the income free to putting up a second Berlin Wall. Can you highlight what your salient points are on what you call immigration reform?
I believe we should end chain migration and have a more merit-based system, merit-based immigration. I actually call illegal aliens what they are, illegal aliens, not undocumented, not immigrants. They're illegal aliens. It's a legal term. I'm for the wall on the southern border myself. I'm against DACA. I think if you're going to be here legally, or if you're going to be here, you need to be here legally. And looks like my time's up there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Candidate, and it is Robert Reynolds.
You missed Joey.
Oh, Joey, I missed you. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. We have two more 5th Congressional District candidates. Joey Nations, will you come on up, please?
Sure.
Sorry about that, Joey.
That's okay. And you're my constituent.
I'm in the 4th.
Oh, all right. So, my name's Joey Nations, like everybody said, right? So I appreciate everyone coming out. Now, 5th Congressional District, we just have a small piece of Benton County. Does anybody here know, are you in Kurt Schrader's district?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, very good. If you are in particular, come up and talk to me. Either ask me a question here or come up and ask me afterward. I'm an open book. So again, that's Joey Nations. I'm a husband, I'm a father. The biggest thing currently going on in this campaign is I'm running to take out corrupt Kurt Schrader, okay? I call him Corrupt Kurt because he is a perfect example, actually, of what is the issue with Congress. That is corruption by political action committee money. And so if you look at Kurt Schrader, he takes about 70 or 75% of his campaign donations from outside of our state and outside of our district. The large majority of that comes from political action committee money. So part of my stance as the anti-corruption pro-America candidate is I do not take PAC money of any kind. And so I will not be beholden to anybody but the voter. I cannot be bought. And that's going to be a huge threat to Kurt Schrader in the general election. If you look at non-affiliated voters, if you look at independents, These are people that we need to swing our way in the general election to win. Now, I'm going to keep all my conservative principles intact, and I'm going to bring those people in by being anti-corruption, meaning I am not bought by the PAC money in particular. And so I recognize it takes money to run, so I am hosting a rifle raffle that tells you where I'm at with the Second Amendment, okay? So I've got an AR-15 and a Henry Golden Boy 22 that I'm raffling off. So obviously very friendly on the Second Amendment. I was at the two Second Amendment rallies that we had in Salem. Spoke to huge crowds there, had a great time. Mike was there too. And really enjoyed seeing how many patriots came out on that topic. And so we're going to have a really fired up 2018, I can tell you that. So my pro-America stance I'll talk about a little bit. So immigration for me means immigration that benefits the United States. So I would call that America First immigration. That means that we have to have merit-based immigration. We have to look at the volumes of immigration that we have now and whether our labor market can actually accept all of those arrivals that we're getting. We have to build the southern wall. We have to enforce the current law. I don't think we necessarily need new enforcement laws if we would enforce what's already on the books. And as for DACA, we cannot have any type of voting or any type of citizenship handed out to folks who jump the line. So the other thing for me, and this is anti-corruption and pro-America, I will represent you, the voter, on every vote. So Kurt betrayed us on Kate's Law. He voted no on the No Sanctuary for Criminals Act. He voted no on tax cuts. He voted for the omnibus bill. I will make sure that I actually represent the voters instead of the out-of-district money that the other candidates always want. And I'm out of time, so I'm happy to take questions and talk to folks afterwards as well.
You're a newcomer to elections in Oregon, so could you tell us how your background and experience set you apart from the other candidates?
Absolutely. So I'm the only candidate in this race who's actually been involved in the legislative process. I worked in the Utah State Legislature while I was going to college at the University of Utah. I worked for a few senators out there. I also got a lobbying job after that and worked all the way out to the level of DC and all the worst people in the Democratic Party you would ever imagine. And it opened my eyes to the level of corruption that we have in this system. And because of what I saw, I actually left that lobbying world and sought the position that I have now at the Department of Revenue, trying to save the state money when they will listen. And so my wife and my two kids, we moved out to Oregon, and I brought that experience with me because it is part of what has made me choose this platform, because it's the only platform that we will actually change the system with. It's not going to happen overnight, but we have to elect candidates who are willing to stand up and say, yes, it's your free speech to offer me money, but it's my free speech to deny it and say I'm going to represent the voters and not the PACs. So my background, I think, prepares me very well compared to the other candidates in this race. Yes.
I wanted to point out that Kurt Schrader in 2010, I asked him specifically at a town hall meeting regarding the Obamacare and its constitutionality, and his statement was that he will let the Supreme Court determine the constitutionality of any law. He doesn't really care. So I'm hoping that you would challenge him to a debate partially on that basis.
Absolutely. So I am also the only candidate in this race. If you don't follow me on Facebook yet, go find Joey Nations on Facebook. I've confronted Kurt Schrader several times at his town halls on video about questions he doesn't want to answer about illegal immigration, questions about special interests that dictate everything he does. And he runs away from me in those town halls. And so I will be challenging him to a debate in every single county, if not more. And I guarantee you he's going to use his $2 million buffer zone that he has to hide. And the second he starts hiding from me, that's when we have to go public and say, Cowardly Kurt, donate your $1.5 million to the charity of your choice. Let's do this on the issues. And that's not the only way we're going to fight. We have to obviously raise some money and contact the voters and get out the excitement, right? But yes, I will be challenging him because he can't stand on the issues, and I'd be happy to take him one-on-one anytime. Anybody else? Oh, sorry, out of time. Thank you all for having me.
His congressional district candidate, and that is Robert Reynolds from Oregon City.
Hey everybody, how are y'all doing? My name is Rob Reynolds, and people ask me, why am I running for office and all this craziness? Well, it started last summer when I went back to Washington, D.C. with my son for a U.S. history trip. We went and visited the White House, we sat in the gallery of Congress. Congressman Walden, our great Republican congressman, gets up and announces announces this budget bill. Really doesn't mean anything, but he announces it. Points it over to Congressman Schrader and goes, Congressman Schrader's going to talk on this bill. Congressman Schrader gets up, I implore you, no matter what you do, you need to vote for this bill. No matter what party you wear, you need to vote for this bill. Turns around, walks off the floor, vote's happening, it's going to pass, comes back and votes against it. I'm there with 18 high school students going, I hope they didn't see that. So then a month later, I'm talking to my aunt who's really liberal, but she's a little redhead spitball. She won't pull any punches. She'll put you in your place. I'm telling her the story, and she looks at me and she goes, shut up and quit whining and do something about it. So that's what I'm doing. I'm running for office, and I'm running to serve you. Now, you ask, how am I going to do that? I've never ran for office before. This is how I'm going to do that. I don't know if you know about the Detroit reservoir issue, but I've already spoken with the regional manager for NOAA. I've spoken to the project manager, and I have a solution to stop them in their tracks from destroying the town of Detroit, destroying the drinking water in Salem. I'm doing this while I'm running for office, while I'm working full-time and trying to take care of my family. So if I'm working this hard for you while I'm in office, well, I'm not in office, what am I going to do for you when I'm in office? The other big issue is forestry. As mentioned before, and I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but the National Forestry's policy is that wildfires they allow to burn unless they're affecting private property. So these 2 fires we had last summer could have been put out a long time before they were if they rewrote the policy. And that's where our current congressman won't rewrite the policy to fix the forest issue. The other big issue that we have that people aren't aware is the mining. We have a lot of mining out in the 5th district that's not being allowed because of the policies. One big thing that I'm skipping over, and I'm sorry, I'm bouncing around, the Endangered Species Act with the Detroit Reservoir. That's the reason they're trying to close it. NOAA's pushing the Army Corps of Engineers to go back on a policy for when they put in a dam. Why is NOAA involved in our waterways? Why are they affecting us this far inland? This needs to be stopped. The overreach of federal government needs to be stopped. And that's the problem. They're reaching into our pockets. They're destroying our cities. We need to have local control for this. And my name is Rob Reynolds. Check out my website, reynoldsforcongress.com. I'm on Facebook. Love to have you follow me. I'd love to answer any questions. Feel free to touch bases with me. Any questions?
Yes, sir. Well, I'm not too sure about Kurt Schrader's numbers, but my closest example would be Peter DeFazio. He's personally sponsored almost 500 bills in his 30 years, and only passed 9 of them. Only 1 in the past 10 years. If elected, will you commit to only proposing bills that you can take the time to work on? You know, not just clogging up the legislation?
Exactly, yes. I will commit to only working on bills that I know, that I work with the Senate on, that are going to pass.
Yep.
So what Congressman Schrader's done is he put a bill out to save the airports, the Independence Airport. I don't know if you guys know about this or not. They were going to put a fence around it. And so he put this bill out there to stop the fence happening. And you think, oh, well, it's in the committee. It's going to go out to the floor. No, it got sent to transportation. The bill got killed. The fence didn't go around the Independence Airport, but they never fixed anything. So what Congressman Schrader likes to do is to vote for bills that aren't going to pass and aren't going to lead anywhere. And that's what one thing I guarantee, that I'm only going to propose things that are actually going to be voted on.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, well, if you have any questions that you want to ask me privately, I'll be standing right over here afterwards.
Wonderful candidates, don't we? Let's give everybody a hand. Okay, we're going to move now to our gubernatorial candidates. Governor of Oregon. Newt Bueller wanted in the worst way to be here tonight, but he had an engagement over in Eastern Oregon that he had promised to go there. Although we invited him immediately after the candidates, all the candidates had filed. And so tonight we have his campaign manager, Rebecca Tweed, who's going to tell you about Newt and what he stands for.
Thank you very much for being here. Thanks for having me. Good evening. It is wonderful to be here tonight. I love coming to Benton County. I've worked down here quite a bit. Love coming to OSU games, and I can't think of a better day to be in the car for an hour and a half coming from Tigard. And you know what I loved about it is it reminds me of how much I love Oregon. and why I love Oregon, how different it is going just from the Tualatin area all the way down to Benton County and the farmland and the buildings that you see in the homes and the families you pass on the road. And I love Oregon, but I know that Oregon can do better than what we've been doing. I've grown up here, I'm a native Oregonian, much like Newt, and I'll get to him in a second, but the reason that I got behind Newt is because I feel like I want the future of my state to be stronger, and Newt's the candidate that can do it. Newt's running for governor against Kate Brown for a simple reason, because he knows that our state and the Oregonians in our state have been left out and left behind for far too long. Under Governor Brown's failed policies, we've seen education dropping rate by rate by rate. We've been seeing homelessness increase. We've been seeing the PERS liability get larger and larger. We have foster care crises. We have a lot of problems under Governor Brown, and she's not fixing them. And Newt's the candidate, and Newt will be the governor that will put our state back on the right path to a better future. He's got a lot of priorities, but he has three main ones. The first being education. We have to get education back on track. I was fortunate enough to go to good public schools with good parents that supported me and got me through that, but we have students that's not the case. 1 in 4 students are not graduating anymore. That's not acceptable. We had a gentleman write in from an Oregon City high school last week that said he saw Newt speak and he wants to get on board with Newt's campaign. I said, well, tell me a little bit about your story. I mean, you're 17. How are you that engaged in the governor's campaign? He said, there aren't enough desks in my classroom. How do we study? How do we go to college if we don't have enough desks in our classroom? That's what's happening under Kate Brown. The second thing, we need to bring some fiscal sanity back to our state, and I think we can all agree on that. While in office, Governor Brown has supported over $13 billion in taxes. $13 billion in new taxes, not to mention the tax that she just committed to signing into law on small businesses. Another $1 billion on small businesses. I'm one of them. I'm a small business that'll be impacted by that tax. I know many of you in here will be impacted by that tax. And then lastly, we need real leadership. We need leadership that's experienced. We need leadership that's thoughtful. We need leadership that shows up. Newt Buehler has called on the governor to act on everything from Medicaid overpayments to the foster care crisis to vetoing the small business bill. She shows up 3 weeks later with half the plan, half the idea, doesn't veto the tax bill. Newt's a leader, and he's the type of leader that our state needs. And he's the type of leader I want for my Oregon. Thank you.
Let's give some questions too.
Yes, Representative.
So we have a special session coming up. Do you know if Dr. Buehler is inclined to support the governor's plans or partially roll back the
I don't yet. I think that he thinks it's, if Newt Buehler will vote to repeal. Yeah, I think you'd have to talk to Newt about where he is on that. I know that he's been 100% opposed to that small business tax from the start, and what it looks like and what the governor will actually do or not. You'll need to talk to Newt.
It's not really fair for us to ask you to speak for you, you know a lot about it, but thank you, Rebecca, for being with us tonight.
And please visit our website, newtbuehler.com. We have an exciting 3 weeks left. Everybody, you get your ballots on Wednesday, so please, or they start landing Wednesday through Friday, so we hope we can count on your vote and your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Sam Carpenter from Bend is here with us tonight, and we're going to invite him. Come on up. Sorry, Sam.
So, hey everybody. So we're going to do this a little different. You all know what the problems are. You know what the solutions are. You've been listening to it for months and months. I'm pretty tired of talking about it, you guys. Aren't you? No? Okay. You know what the problems are. You know what the solutions are. Let's talk about how we're going to get it done. First, I'd like to thank Jack Tacey, one of the other candidates, for endorsing me today. You know, this is a war. This is a war. This is a street fight. And we Republicans are so nice all the time, and that's why we're where we are. Gun rights, abortion, immigration, go on down the line. That's why we're here. It's a street fight. And we can all be very nice about it. I want to show you something. We've done 6 scientific polls. I got a copy for you over here. And you guys, for the sake of argument, let's just assume this is correct, okay? Newt Bueller, right now, 39%. Sam Carpenter, 24%. Greg Wildrich, 11%. Bruce Cuff, 3%. You're 2.5%. We didn't do you, Dave, because you were 0 last time. Sorry. Okay, so here's what we do in Oregon. We bunch up against each other. Now, I'm not bickering with you guys or any of the other guys anymore. There's some weird stuff going on out there. We don't need to talk about it. We need to get together. We need to get together. I did this poll, the 6th one. This was $2,400. We got it this morning at Triton Polling. I want to tell you what. The one main reason I did it was if I was going to be in 2nd place, I'm going to drop out. Okay? And support whoever's in 1st place. You guys need to think about that. And your guy needs to think about that. And you, Rebecca, with all due respect to Newt, he's pro-choice. He doesn't like our president. There's not going to be immigration reform. And forget your gun rights. He rates an F with the Oregon Firearms Federation. And I rank the highest they give a non-incumbent, which is B+. That's your choice, or 9 other perfectly fine grassroots people. Okay? But this is the problem, okay? 15% between Newt and me. You guys add up, you got about 16%. We got to get together. I'm asking you, and I'm asking the candidates who aren't here tonight, 3 other candidates, what's up with that? For once, let's get together and do what we need to do. If Newt Bueller is elected, nothing changes. The babies still die right up to the birthday. That's what happens, okay? The gun rights are going to be gone. Make up your mind. We need to talk. We need to talk about this. And I'm going to go to every meeting. I think we've got 8 more. I'm going to hammer this home. It's all I'm going to talk about, okay? Because this is of existential importance. Dennis Richardson won his Secretary of State's race on $2.3 million. Newt Bueller is going to spend about $3 million on this primary. TV ad after TV ad after TV ad. We've done $250,000, which is typical for a primary. Okay, he's buying the election. You guys, if we all got together and joined together as a team, we can win this thing. We're doing some killer things out there right now. Social media, we're doing the robocalls. We're doing huge stuff out there right now in this last week. And I'm spending a lot of money personally, and I've taken in some money. But I'm telling you, if we get together as a team, good try. Because you guys get 2-3%, you're going to be part of the spoilers. You don't want to be that. I didn't want to be. That's why I did this. That's why I did this poll. I don't want to be the guy that prevented #1 from taking on Newt Bueller. And for once, a conservative runs against a progressive far left. I'm telling you, we can win. Not the way it is now. Not with this. I took up all my time. Joe Ray, quick.
I have a real quick question. Because the ballots are printed, they're coming out, and I hear your heart, Sam. I hear where you're coming from. But the reality is that they're going to be on the ballot. So
I think that if you guys went to your people, and Bruce and Greg went to your people, we could get half of that back. You're right. They should have dropped out before the ballots. I've been doing polls. I've presented polls to everybody here, all through here. You didn't do a poll. You didn't do a poll. I don't think you did a poll. I'm the only one that's done polls. So for the sake of argument, let's pretend that poll is correct. Because it is. You can verify it anywhere you want. These are the numbers that are going to end up. I would not want to be this guy, okay, and still want to live in the state of Oregon. okay? Because for once, we have a chance to do this. For once, we can do it and take the state back, and we'll take along the Senate, and we'll take along the House too, and we'll take the state back. Otherwise, it's dribble, 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 and it's the same old thing we've been doing for 32 years. Yes, sir.
Just a quick one. Okay, what is the sampling frame for this? Republicans?
1,000, 3-4, and 4-4 Republican voters.
1,000?
3-4 means they voted 3 out of the last 4 elections. 4-4 means 4 out
But
of
it's
the last
Republicans, all right. So, that's all you're talking about. So, if you win this nomination, can you cut it against Kate? That's the real question.
I beat Kate right now by 5 percentage points.
Oh, I bet. Okay, you're gonna put that out somewhere?
It's on my website.
All right.
Go
that's
look
worth
at it.
knowing. All right, you got a margin of error
Voters
up there, the
pamphlet.
whole bit?
What's that?
You got a margin of error up there, the whole bit? If you're gonna play
2.2%.
games with sampling theory, you gotta play games with sampling theory.
2.2% is a scientific sampling. And all the counties that were sampled are on it, okay?
I assume it's a random sample of
Yes.
Republicans.
MakeOregonGreatAgain.com, Sam Carpenter for
So much.
Oregon is the Facebook page. We're adding 1,000 people a day.
Thank you so much, Sam, for being with us. Great presentation. No, Bruce didn't show. Okay. Jeff Smith, are you here tonight? Yeah. There he is.
It's an honor to be here. It's an honor to be here. I really appreciate being here with my fellow citizens of the greatest nation on earth, the United States of America. Grew up in Elgin. It's northeastern corner of Oregon, went to OIT. From there I went to Los Angeles, worked in the aerospace industry, worked all across the United States. Went to 3 different continents and 4 different countries that I worked in. Finally moved back to Oregon, built an aerospace manufacturing facility, started with a bare piece of land, built a building, bought machines, installed machines, started making parts, and along the way I was a very careful observer of Oregon politics. And maybe you feel like Kate Brown has taken us down this road so far that we may not be able to get back. And I feel that desperation. So the question is how do we defeat Kate Brown? She has a huge advantage over any Republican because she's the incumbent governor and she's going to get millions of dollars from the labor unions. So how do we make it a reality, not just hoopla, of defeating Kate Brown? It all boils down to one thing. This is the whole election right here, one thing. There's 100,000 voters that we have to find in Multnomah County, and we have to take them from 18 months ago, they voted against Donald Trump and for Hillary Clinton, and we got to flip them to vote for a Republican. And I'll tell you right now, unless we do that, no Republican in Oregon is going to win. Those 100,000 voters is what always sinks us. And we have to get them to do something radically different. I'm going to give you 2 things that won't work to flip them and 4 things that will. 2 things that are not going to flip those voters. If you closely align yourself with Donald Trump, they're not going to listen to you. Those 100,000 people hate Donald Trump. That's not my statement, that's their feeling, okay? Secondly, if you talk about minutia about the budget, cutting taxes, every Republican for the last 30 years has run on things like that. Hasn't worked. Okay, so what are 4 things that we can get those 100,000 voters to flip on? Everybody is suffering under the high cost of medical care. Every time you go to the doctor, you're paying 4 to 12 times more than what you would in another industrialized country. That's because of laws right here in Oregon. High cost of medical services, of medical insurance. I have a $5,500 deductible. K through 12 education, we got to get back to vocational training. And finally, homelessness. What Republican talks about homelessness? But those 100,000 voters in Portland that we have to flip if we want to win, they're upset about homelessness. Those are 4 issues that we can flip those 100,000 voters on. Kate Brown has a huge advantage. All of this stuff that Sam put up there, it makes no difference because we have to take those people who want who normally vote for a Democrat and flip them. And I'm the radical that doesn't look like your average Republican that can flip them. I'm Jeff Smith. You can go to jeff4gov.com. You can Google Jeff Smith for governor. Lots of stuff comes up. There's cards back here. There's up here. Any questions? Yeah.
So you keep touting we have to win the 100,000 people in Portland. Dennis Richardson just won a statewide election as a Republican, and he did it by not pandering to Portland. He didn't win over massive majorities of Portland. He's a social conservative from Southern Oregon. Why can't other Republicans win that way instead of pandering to Portland liberals like you proposed?
Who cares about the Secretary of State?
About 1 billion voters did.
Yeah, but the social issue.
If you look, they got over 300,000 less people voted for Hillary, against Donald Trump and for Hillary.
This isn't a race between Donald Trump and Hillary. It's between
you asked
a Republican
me for my
and
answer.
Katie
I'm
Brown.
giving you my answer. The down voting, there was hundreds of thousands of people did not vote for the Secretary of State. In the governor race, people care. They're not. It's going to be the top of the ballot. It's not going to be something that gets ignored. Did you have something, Joanne?
That was my question, Jeff, because so my question to you is on the social issues, because I know that, and I asked voters this question: if you've got two candidates to choose from, one Republican, one Democrat, they're both pro-choice. Would you vote for either one of them? And I've heard, and I've had voters tell me, no, they will not. There's a huge undervote. So on the social issues, where do you stand?
Okay, that's a key part of my strategy. I have avoided those social issues because Dennis Richardson, on his voter pamphlet, said, I, as Secretary of State, will have absolutely no sway on those moral issues. So he bowed out. So I'm implementing Dennis Richardson's strategy on the social issues. And that's part of my strategy is I have avoided many, many issues that Republicans die on. And I have touted issues that we can win on. So you got to do both. You got to avoid the killers and push the winners. He wants to know if I'll bring Major League Baseball to Oregon. God bless him, you know.
How about football?
Like I said, you can go to jeff4gov.com. There's cards on the back. Thank you so much.
Hey,
God
Jeff,
bless.
if you're going to get 2% of the vote, you know you are, why are you staying in the race and hurting my chance, Oregon's chance, to take out a progressive Republican? Why are you doing that?
You know, the real race, as I've made my point, is against Kate Brown. That's right. Okay? And the question is who is best positioned himself through the primary to beat Kate Brown?
You're going to get 2%.
You're going to get 2%. We'll let the voters decide.
You can't win the
And
primary.
I would like you to notice, I didn't say anything negative about my fellow Republicans.
Time to quit.
God bless y'all.
Our next candidate running for governor of Oregon is David W. Stauffer from Portland. Welcome, David.
Thank you. I'm Dave Stauffer. I'm a candidate for governor of Oregon. I'm the solutions candidate, the environmental solutions candidate. A leader looks at the problems of Oregon, recognizes the problems of Oregon, and then solves them. Kate Brown is not a leader. She doesn't even recognize the problems. What problems do we have that are solvable? We've got a terrible shortage of water. Kate Brown wants to breach all the dams on the Klamath River, leaving all those farmers and ranchers at the headwaters high and dry. And she also, well, the dams on the Rogue River have already been breached. I have a way to get water back up to those high and dry people using a very scientific, innovative method. I can solve that problem. I originally got into this because Morrow and Umatilla counties, right on the Columbia River, about 6 years ago, wanted to divert just a little bit of the Columbia River to create 10,000 agricultural jobs. And they asked the Oregon legislature, and the Oregon legislature said, no, thou shalt not divert the Columbia River. Well, I thought about that, and I can figure a way to get water to those counties, as well as eastern Oregon and eastern Washington and southern Oregon, without diverting one drop of Columbia River water. I have a detailed explanation on my website, but it's a scientific, manageable, workable solution to the problem of getting water to the rural areas. And I've already talked with Senator Merkley and Senator Wyden about it, and I think they're starting to plan on it. It involves the federal waterway of the Columbia River, and what we're going to do is capture the water that flows from the Columbia into the Pacific Ocean and send it back inland. And that way we don't take one drop of water out of the Columbia River, but we get the water back up river. I'm the environmental solutions candidate, and some people say, well, Republicans shouldn't be environmentalists, and I say, well, look at Oregon Governor Republican Tom McCall, who passed the beach bill and who passed the bottle bill. And also Senators Bob Packwood and Mark Hatfield were involved with the Clean Air Act and the Clean Water Act. And I think I can continue in that fine Republican tradition of making environmental improvements. Time's up.
Does anyone have questions for Dave?
How pro-Second Amendment are you? I'd like to know.
Well, I'm absolutely pro-Second Amendment. The Second Amendment has been the law of the land for over 200 years. There's no question about what it says. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Period. Shall not be infringed. So the great thing about this is that we don't have to pass any laws. The law's already there. All we have to do is make sure nobody else infringes on the right to bear arms.
I'm just curious if this is a new pro-gun stance, considering that in the last election you ran as a Democrat against Kate Brown in that primary.
I was in favor of guns at that time, and I'm still in favor of ownership of guns. I went to law school and practiced law in Oregon for 15 years, and I became familiar with all the laws, and you enforce what exists.
But you did run as a Democrat in the last governor's race.
That's correct, and I lost to Kate Brown, and I decided that the way the Democrats see Kate Brown, they're not about to vote for anybody else, except on environmental issues. I'm going to get as many votes from Democrats as I am from Republicans, because Democrats want an end to the traffic congestion. They want water to the farmers and ranchers in eastern and southern Oregon, and they want clean air. They want wildfires to decrease so that we don't have so much air pollution from it. Everybody's an environmentalist, even Democrats. And that's how I will win the governorship, by getting their environmental votes as well as all the Republican environmental votes.
Very good. Nice to have you with us. Greg Wooldridge will be with us tonight because he had a business commitment back on the East Coast. But I understand that he has someone here who would like to speak for him. Come on up, please. What's your name?
I'm Derek Kitts.
Derek Kitts. Oh, you're his campaign manager, aren't you?
No.
Oh, not?
No. No. Only Rebecca's foolish enough to admit being a campaign manager. And David back there. It's a thankless job. Sorry, I always have this fear if my zipper's down. 9 out of 10 times I'm doing this because I know nobody out there that just be like, and won't tell me. So we're good. We're good to start. So I'm here representing Greg Wooldridge's campaign. Greg's a 27-year Navy veteran, retired, former commander of the Blue Angels, 3 times, the only person in the history of the Blue Angels to do so. He was a commander of Lemoore Naval Air Station, just outside of Fresno, California, where he oversaw the largest naval air station on the West Coast and received the Presidential Installation Award for running the single best naval air station in the world. He's now a motivational speaker, speaks all over the country. He's been outside the country as well on helping people achieve excellence and heightened levels of performance. And unfortunately tonight, I believe it's Orlando that he's in tonight, speaking. He'd much rather be here than doing that, I can assure you that. So my apologies on his behalf, and he's a far better speaker than I am, I can assure you that as well. So I want to just address some of the points that Sam's made up here, because I think they're valid points. Now, first and foremost, let me just say I would never take my opponent's poll as the God's honest truth. I wouldn't call me a skeptic in politics. But if you compare Sam's 2 polls that he's presented over the last month, the last one had Newt Bueller at 23%, I believe. Had Sam at roughly 23%, I believe. It had Greg Wooldridge at roughly 4%, I believe. I'm looking here for verifications. I don't want to misquote you.
That's correct.
And if you look at Sam's new poll, Sam's gone up 1 point to 24. Newt's 39. Wooldridge has almost tripled his numbers to 11. Now, I got to tell you, since we just started spending money and got in the race late, and we spent money for the last 9 days, that's it. Bueller spent about $500,000, I believe, on TV over the last 3 weeks. He's got the money. There's no denying that. That's all public information. But I like the fact that our numbers have gone up 3-fold when we started spending money. I like the fact that once we start our campaign, our numbers are going up. So no, we're not getting out of the race. No, it's a democracy. It's the way things work. And yes, I'm confident that at the end of the day, when our campaign plan is executed over the next 3 weeks, that you'll have a conservative, and his name's Greg Wooldridge, and he'll be the nominee, and we'll go on, and we'll take out Kate Brown. It's that simple. My time's up. Any questions?
I got a question.
I got an answer, Sam.
February 26th, Greg was at 8. He dropped to 4 a month later. And now he's gone to 11. I'm at 24. If I don't drop out, how is he going to get the rest of the conservative vote? And why would I drop out if I'm in the lead?
Right. No, I think that's a fair question. You've been in the race since October?
End of October.
End of October. You spent $250,000.
No.
You just said you spent $250,000.
I'm going to spend $250 when we're done.
Okay. So 200? What's that? 4-star?
Yeah, probably.
Okay. Semantics. Why would Greg drop out of the race? We're just starting. So the more people that meet Greg, the more that we take the votes.
I just explained why.
We're going to get the votes from your people. That's where we're getting the votes. Coming after, one by one.
We don't have the
one by one.
Okay, you talk over me. Just keep talking.
Go ahead.
I'll shut up now.
I don't know what your question is.
My question is, I'm not dropping out because I'm twice what Greg has got, okay? I got 24 points. How is he going to get up to Newt's 39 from 12? He's gone from 8 in 2 months to 12.
We were just at 4 according to your last poll.
He was 4 in the last poll, Correct, but he was 8 a month before that. He lost half of his support, and now he's jumped up to 11.8.
We call that
3 days to go.
taking off.
Oh, okay, taking off.
Taking off. It's our campaign
I
slogan.
thought it kind of crashed on the takeoff. but
No, he
that's
doesn't
all right.
crash.
Where can we find out more about Greg?
WoldridgeForOregon.com.
Endorsements.
Yes, thank you. We appreciate that.
No.
Oh, Sam, endorsing us? What's your
Who
question?
has endorsed Greg? What endorsements does he have?
What endorsements does he have? Let's see, we've got, not Egg Pack, it's Northwest Egg Pack, which is a food processing folks. State Representative Bill Post has endorsed our campaign. Me, does that count? Biased?
Yeah.
Oregon Right to Life, I believe. Oregon Right to Life is the only candidate endorsed by Oregon Right to Life. So. David, I'm going to come to you with that. Did you have a question, or were you just pointing to these questions? David, do I have time to answer another question, or is my time up? I don't want to.
Quick question. I noticed when Oregon Firearms Federations gave out their ratings that there were a couple of guys, including Sam, who got the B+, highest a non-incumbent can get. Woldridge did not score that high.
No, he did not.
What's going on there?
So Woldridge got a B. There was a question on the Oregon Firearms Federation about bump stocks. And Greg requested more information from Kevin Starrett. He said, I don't understand how a bump stock relates to the Second Amendment. It's an accessory to a gun. It's not a gun. If you go buy a bump stock in and of itself, it has nothing to do with a firearm. It's an accessory. And he said, can you give me some more information? Because one, I don't have one. I don't understand how they work. And before I answer something blindly, I'd like more information. Kevin wouldn't give us more information, so he gave us a B.
There's a lot of gun owners who think that is a pretty important issue, and they do know what a bump stock is.
That's awesome. Greg wasn't going to answer a question that he wasn't comfortable answering with.
Derek, just pay a little closer attention to the NRA questionnaire, and you'll get where the candidates stand better. I got a bad, absolutely invalid deal on one thing in my own county, which was opposite of the truth. So I got a C. So and I'm going to get that back because it's like I said, illegitimate.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Really excited about Oregon, because she's a woman. Oregon House of Representatives, 15th District, Shelley Beauchart Davis. Welcome, Shelley. Shelley is running for District 15 because the incumbent Andy Olson is not going to run again.
Yes. Otherwise, I would not be running. My name is Shelley Beauchart Davis, and first thing, I am glad I am not running for governor. Thank you for saying that about Representative Olson. In fact, he literally just sent me a text about 15 minutes ago and said, make sure they know that I have fully endorsed you and support your campaign. So I'm a mother to 3 daughters, 10, 12, and 15. I'm a trucking company business owner. I grew up on a farm in Tangent, in the Albany Tangent area, and I'm heavily involved in everything related to transportation, including exports to Japan and Korea. We export grass straw as forage to Japan and Korea. I got into this race because Representative Olson has been talking to me about it for about the last 5-6 months, and asked lots of questions and really, really tough questions, and said, what's it all about? And got them all answered, and I said, yes, I want to do that. I've been involved in testifying at the legislature, probably testified before you, Representative Neerman, on everything related to agriculture, to transportation, to small business. We're a small business owner. My parents are small business owners. I started running farm equipment at age 11 and have missed only one summer on the farm. So I'm heavily invested in everything agriculture, transportation, and small business, and so that's why I'm here today, to lend that voice to the legislature, and that's my goal, is to lend that kind of experience and to represent House District 15. So that's why I'm here. I'm very excited about it. So far it's gone really good. Some of the endorsements, Oregon Right to Life, I did get a B+ on the Oregon Firearms Federation. I got my hunter safety license at age 12, and have been a hunter my entire life, and own guns and responsibly use them. So that's who I am, and I would happily take some questions. Joey.
Please share the award that you got.
The award that I got.
Yes, that big award.
In 2015, I was named American Agro Women and Monsanto's Farm Mom of the Year. There were 1,400, I'd say applicants, nominations, 1,400 nominations in the U.S. And there were 5 regional winners, which I won the Pacific Northwest, and then it was crazy. It was open for a vote nationwide, and I won that award. It was a pretty big honor. I was able to represent a lot of people and learn a lot doing that, but the biggest thing that I learned then is that people needed to hear more about what happens on the farm. We have this urban-rural divide in this state, in this country really, and we are generations removed from the farm, and so there's a lot of misunderstanding, there's a lot of education that goes on, and so that really lent me be able to give that voice to that problem that we have here in Oregon, here locally, and even more at a national level as well.
What is the issue that will make the difference for you in the general election?
The question is the issue that will make the difference in the general, I don't have a primary, I don't know if that was said or if you knew that. In the general election, I think that this district, in District 15, which includes North Albany and Benton County, we rely on small business. We rely on small business, and we have major transportation issues that run through our district on Interstate 5. I know that there's talk of an intermodal place coming into I-5. I think that there needs to be a transportation voice there. There needs to be a rural voice there and small business, and I think that's going to be the issue.
Thank you.
So one thing I'd really like to see is an elimination of overtime taxation, because families that work over 40 hours a week, they need that for their families. Would you support eliminating overtime taxation at the state level? This way families can keep more of their money that they're working hard for and they deserve.
When you say eliminating overtime taxation?
The taxation of hours past the 40-hour mark. Would you support letting families keep that money?
Yes. I mean, if they work for it, then yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Excellent. I appreciate
All
it.
right.
I just want that. I want more money on the table.
Absolutely. If they work for it, absolutely. Was there a question in the back? Is there one more? Yes?
A comment about the endangered species, specifically the way the American eagle is devastating the land production here in the valley.
You could probably throw wolves into
But they're not here in the valley.
Well, correct, but into some of the statewide questions about that. It's funny because I have a lot of sheep, right, out and how that affects sheep and livestock. It would be something that we'd have to talk about. I would have to see a lot of the details on that, time's up. But it would be something that I want to take into consideration, more voice from the rancher and farmer background when we talk about those kind of things. And I don't think that voice is there enough. Thank you.
This evening, Representative Mike Neerman. He's the incumbent for Oregon House of Representatives, District 23. Mike, we're happy to have you with us.
Good. Thanks, Jean. So I spoke at the Benton County Republican Women today, so this is Jean's second bite at the apple today with me. So I'm Mike Neerman. I'm the incumbent at House District 23. I'm running for my 3rd term there. And I'm a software engineer by trade, which means that I don't really have enough social skills to actually run for office. But somehow I did, and I won anyway. So first of all, I'll do a commercial. I hope you send Shelley to work with me in the legislature there. So we really need her to work there. And, I don't think you ever get a fair trade for Andy Olson, but I think that her experience with transportation would be very helpful, and she'd get up to speed quickly on that. So I don't know if you know this, but there's 2 legislatures in the state of Oregon. If you read through the Oregon Constitution, there's the one in the Marble House in Salem there, and the other one is the people of the state of Oregon. The people of the state of Oregon hold legislative power through the initiative process, and we have since the early 1900s. And I'm a member of that legislature too, and so I've been a chief petitioner on several ballot measures. I got 2 active ones right now. One is IP number 5, which says that
anybody who registers to vote in Oregon has to prove their U.S. citizenship. The other one is IP 22, which is to repeal one of Oregon's sanctuary laws. And I was also the chief petitioner on the measure to repeal 719, the gun background check thing. And so anyway, I participate in both legislatures. I'm on a bunch of committees in the legislature, in the Marble legislature, and there's two kinds of committees in the legislature. And the first one that you think of is policy committees, and that's where we make laws and do all that kind of stuff. The other one that we don't always think about is Ways and Means, and that's where we spend money for the state of Oregon. And so we can do a lot of damage through policy. We pass our share of really bad laws, and I try to do my best to get in the way of those, whatever. And we do a few good ones every now and then. But where we really do the damage is through the spending in the state of Oregon. This state taxes more than we need to, we spend more than we need to, we don't spend responsibly, and it's controlled by the public employee unions. And so that's going to be my fall, is going to be getting crushed by the public employee unions. The last election, they threw $100,000 into a PAC that was dedicated just to me, to work on me. So anyway, I'm happy to serve you in the legislature, and I hope you'll send me back again. And I will keep fighting. I don't give up, and I'll take whatever questions you have. Yes.
So what, as a Republican, what's the number one key reason to win? 3 times.
You mean like how do I win, or?
Yeah, what's the number one key reason?
I think that people do focus on policy things, and so if I can change your question, can I have 3, whatever? And I would say it would be life, guns, and taxes is really the 3 issues that kind of stand out. And so those are the kinds of things. Those play in my district. So my district kind of surrounds Corvallis and all that. Was that answering your question? You're wincing.
It's like ideological. Besides ideological reason, what's the other reason?
What's your secret to winning?
Well, what's my secret to winning? I think that in a lot of ways, I kind of made a joke about it when I said I don't have enough social skills to actually get elected to office. But I think that's kind of true, is I'm just a regular guy. I'm not Mr. Spit and Polish and all that kind of stuff. I got mud on my shoes because I was out there. I got sheep too. I was out there feeding, not as many as you, but I was out there feeding them and stuff. And then, heck, I'll just walk through the mud in my dress shoes and stuff like that. And I'm that kind of guy. And I think that people in my district, they respond to that. So, does anybody else have any questions? Yeah.
You were endorsed by AgPAC?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. And I'm glad to work with agriculture. Agriculture is the backbone of the state's economy, I think. And it doesn't stand out like Nike or Intel or something like that. But if you take all those farms and kind of squeeze them all together into a ball, they make a bigger ball than probably Nike and Intel put together. So agriculture is very important. Yeah.
What's your thoughts on fixing PERS?
So I have some thoughts on fixing PERS. So first of all, PERS will not be fixed while we have Democrats in power in there. They are so beholden to the public employee unions that they won't even let the smallest kind of fixes go in. Like we had a bill this last session that said they wanted to just say, let's take all the judges and the statewide elected officials and put them on their own retirement plan so they don't have the conflict of interest. Oh no, we could never do that. No, you're trying to wreck people's lives. Oh, how could you do that? So the way to fix PERS though, most of it can't be fixed. We've entered into contractual agreements with people, and we can't break those, and that's fine. We're going to have to bite the bullet or something like that. But we're sitting here bailing out the boat, and we haven't fixed the leaks. And so I introduced a bill in the last session that said, from now on, either if you're a contract public employee right now, or as soon as your contract ends, if you're not a contract public employee right now, you go on a 401k and for all future work performed. And that makes sense to say, we're going to put duct tape over the holes in the boat. And now we can start bailing, and we can bail, we can make some progress. We're not making any progress because we haven't fixed the system. So we need to, there are fixes out there, and they are legal. So yeah, in the back.
Hi, Mike. Why doesn't the state legislature adopt the GS system like the federal employees? And so that your
retirement you're talking about?
Well, they can't strike, and then they get rid of the unions, which is part of the problem. And I'm looking at it this way, I'm a taxpayer, and you know, the way it purrs is, my God, my great-grandchildren won't even pay for it.
Yeah, it is, it's sad, and, you know, we're not really getting anything for it. So you know, I would support something like that, but, you know, we need to gain ground where we can, but I would support doing something like that. So they're saying my time's up, I'm happy to just babble on a little bit. But.
So you mentioned supporting IP5. I have heard that IP5 would require all Oregonians to re-register.
Right, they would expire voter registrations over, I think I should know this, I'm a chief petitioner, I think over a 2-year period or something.
Wouldn't that cost a lot of money to require everyone to re-register?
No, so, well, it would, but I don't know. You get to a point where you say, is it important to have clean elections or not, and at what price do you put on clean elections there? So I think over a 2-year period, I think that the county clerks could absorb that, and I don't deny that it's going to cost some money, but at what price do you put on democracy? Good. Thanks, Gene.
Oh, thank you. It's been a wonderful evening. I thank each one of you for the presentations that you've given. I'm so much more enlightened than I was before I came tonight. How about the rest of you? We have about 20 minutes until we need to close, and so our candidates have materials out here on the tables. I hope each one of you will go around and pick up the material